Whoa, it's the Illusion, reporting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth. I'm at home headquarters. It's time for a book review. The Trigger by Tim Butcher. Awesome read. What's it about? It's about Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip. Who is Gavrilo Princip? Do you know your world history? He is the dude who assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo to kick off World War I. This is a super interesting book. One of the more interesting books I've read in a long time. It's kind of a travel essay and a historical narrative. Basically what Tim Butcher does is he goes and follows Gavrilo's life from birth to death in Bosnia. If you don't know where Bosnia is, go get out a map. But wait, we have a map here. It's one of the Balkanized states of the former Yugoslavia. So there's Bosnia. Remember Bosnia? It's where gnarly genocide occurred. So basically he goes and follows this dude's life, and he walks through Bosnia. And so you sort of get a travel essay about Bosnia. It's in 2012 when he's walking through Bosnia. And the interesting thing is he was a reporter in Bosnia during their civil war. I guess it was a civil war. During their bloodbath. And so you get a real interesting perspective about World War I, about the breakup of the former Yugoslavia, and what went down in Bosnia, the genocide. And it's really pretty interesting because in the 90s, what was going on in Bosnia kind of was the beginning of the jihadist movement. That's where supposedly Osama bin Laden went to kind of kick off his jihadist ways. And a lot of those dudes who were involved with 9/11 supposedly were went to Bosnia. Bosnia was the breeding ground of sort of jihadist training in the 90s, because what was going on was you had the clash of civilizations going on, much as we have today. So in the the end of the 1800s, the Ottoman Empire was getting pushed out. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was coming in. Serbia had fought for its own independence. Bosnia was right there, wanted to be independent. So what's interesting is Tim Butcher goes into who is Gavrilo Princip, and who is this guy, because he's the trigger man who starts World War I. But actually it gets real interesting because he wasn't truly a nationalist. And what was going on in the beginning of the 1900s was nationalism, and it's still going on. I mean, that's what Hitler was about, and Stalin was about, and we're all about, and everybody's about, is nationalism. My flag's better than your flag. So, but this dude wasn't, he was all about all the people of of Yugoslavia, which means the Southern Slavs. Yugoslavia means the Southern Slavs. So he was all about everybody, because at the time there was the Croatians, the Croatian Bosnians, the Serbian Bosnians, and the Muslim Bosnians, all living together in Bosnia. And the Serbians were basically Orthodox Christians, Catholics. I get so confused about the breakdown on the Christian game, dude. And And the Croatians, the Croatian Bosnians were another Christian group. And then you had the Muslim Bosnians who were from the Ottoman Empire, right? So the Ottoman Empire had taken over what was formerly Yugoslavia, Bosnia, Croatia, all these places. And then the Austro-Hungarians came down and kicked the Ottomans out. And then the Serbians got their own independence. And so this cat, Gavrilo, was all about everybody, just an independent Bosnia free of all the BS, dude. So his bright idea was to go kill Archduke Ferdinand, Franz Ferdinand, who was the heir apparent of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He kills him. The world blames it on Serbian nationalism. Boom. It's on. World War I starts in a flash. But he kind of gets maligned in a little bit because he wasn't a nationalist, dude. He was all about everybody just having an independent state. Let's move it forward to the 90s, you know, when all of a sudden nationalism raises its ugly head once again with the breakup of the former Yugoslavia, aka the Balkans, and madness ensues. Neighbor begins to kill neighbor because of the way they butter their bread. You know, in my life, you know, that was a major thing that was going on in my 20s. What was going on over in the former Yugoslavia? You know, what was going on in Kosovo? What was going on in Bosnia? And basically, the world let genocide occur because there's a certain thing that places like Bosnia and stuff are sort of backwaters of Europe. European backwaters. So no one really was like, they've been fighting over this stuff forever, dude. But what was really going on was, you know, under Tito and dictatorship, all these people kind of lived together. And they had their churches in the same town together. And they all just basically did what they did. But all of a sudden, the Serbian nationalists went a little crazy over in Serbia and started their insanity over in Bosnia. And so part of his journey is from this little town in Herzegovina, and he hikes down to Sarajevo. And what you really get is super interesting is how beautiful Bosnia is. It's a small country. I think it's roughly 160 miles by 160 miles. So get that into your head. And it's generally forested with like grassy valleys. From this dude's breakdown, it's sort of like an Eden. Like a rad place to live, except for the ghosts of Christmas past. Just all these religious nationalist fighting ghosts that live in all these people's hearts. And so you get into the scene, goes down to Sarajevo, and Tim Butcher was there for the siege of Sarajevo. And dude, I've read a bunch of books about what happened in Sarajevo, and it still confuses me. I still don't get why everybody was killing each other, except it was obviously Orthodox versus Muslim. It was the beginning of the new Crusades, if you will, in a weird, creepy way. But you have to understand, the Muslims living in Bosnia were Europeans, man. And nobody was helping these guys. So that's where you get all the jihadists flooding in to Bosnia. And it goes into a lot of detail about how the jihadists were coming up into Bosnia to defend the Muslims who were being sieged in all these towns throughout Bosnia. So, you know, Sarajevo was under siege. There was this town called Srebrenica, which was under siege, which is where the mass genocide occurred, where they slaughtered all of the men. But it's really interesting because they make a heroic break to try to get to this other town, Tuzla, and they walk through the woods. And some of these dudes who survived, the genocide were out in the woods for months, just because it's so forested and nooked and crannied that, like, the terrain led itself to some interesting, the terrain, and that's what this dude's hiking through all this terrain, talking about how beautiful it is, but how horrifying it is that all these people have killed each other in this beautiful place. So, dude, it's a page turner. It is a well-written book, because it's not just a historical narrative and it's not some sort of genocide thing. It's also a travel novel. This dude's traveling the whole time and meeting people and talking to them about what's going on. And, you know, you have a country that has its weird sectors. I don't even quite get what it looks like. I've been super curious to go over to Bosnia for a long time, because, you know, it's 20 years later since their crazy war ended. I wonder what's going on over there. It sounds beautiful, man. Sarajevo sounds like a beautiful city. It's just the tragedy of humans, man, and the way they butter their bread, dude. Why can't everyone get along? I don't understand. So me as a human being, I am constantly trying to figure out why everybody wants to kill everybody, dude. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, you read this book and you realize it's probably a good idea to have guns buried under your house. That's all I'm saying, man. Once again, another group of people that weren't fully armed got their asses kicked and genocided. Just saying, man. Those who don't have the ability to defend themselves get messed up. So, I mean, this is a page turner. There's a bunch of super cool pictures in here. It comes with the appropriate amount of maps. And you really get not only an understanding of Bosnia and what happened in the 90s, but you get an understanding of Gavrilo Princip and his motivations for kicking off World War I. He did not know he was going to kick off World War I. And it's very, very interesting. It's just a fluid read. I could have read it in a day, except life kind of intervened and it took me about 2 weeks. But I am highly recommending The Trigger by Tim Butcher, man. One of the better books I've read in a long time. All right, get it, learn, figure out what's going on in Spaceship Earth. As I always say with these books, man, you don't know what's going to happen. You can know what's going to happen tomorrow if you know what's going to happen in the past. The past definitely dictates what your present moment on Spaceship Earth in this 3D holographic reality we all share looks like. Peace.